Welcome back, everybody. Episode 62 of the Light Warriors Unleashed podcast. And I am just so grateful to be talking to Darren today. Plus, he lives in the UK. He's got a pretty cool accent. And I'm a woman that loves an amazing accent on a man, especially when we're talking about masculinity, and especially when we're stepping in to talk about men owning their strength and being able to be vulnerable and real and raw and hold the power that is within them. And we go into a lot of stuff in this podcast episode together. We step into the space to talk about what's happening in humanity. We talk about what's going on in leadership in the world right now and how we can step into our leadership. We go into very detailed stuff about men and the movement of men in the world and what we're being called to. We talk about his community, called like getting a seat at the table, and about really honoring that masculine drive and allowing men to be men. Now, we're not talking about toxicity men, which we do go into that as well, and about the toxic masculinity that's moving through the world. We're talking about men reclaiming who they are and stepping into that space of sovereignty in the masculine drive and the embodiment of the feminine energy in masculines too, and how we move through both, because both are important in each individual, because we both, all of us, both genders have both energies that float through them, masculine and feminine energy. And what does this look like? What does this feel like? Darren's also an author. He's got his third book that he's in the middle of writing. We talk about the books and about the dynamic of the shift of the books in leadership and how we're stepping into the space. And we had a very open and real and raw conversation. And I'm just so grateful that I get to connect with people like this that are willing to step out and speak truth into the world, even though we may get haters, and even though we may get chastised, and even though some of the movement he's creating, he's getting flack for, which we talk about in the episode. These are important conversations to help shift humanity, to help shift the energy in the world, to help move some energy into the field. And I am just so stoked and excited to be able to share Darren with you today on episode 62 of the Light Warriors Unleashed podcast. Well, Darren, all the way from UK, I'm super excited to have you here today to serve the energy of the collective and to just be, in this space, because I know we're about to have some conversations that, you even said before we hit record that some people don't agree with, and some people maybe don't like, or they have different opinions on certain things and why certain people should be doing whatever they do, just like the normal society, that they want us to stay diminished and controlled and, fit in the box, and everyone should be the same, and all the bullshit that we deal with. So I can't wait to chat with you about this and your books and all the things coming up. But I'd love for you to just, I've done the intro, but just tell people a little bit about what's on your heart to share right now and how we want to come out of the gate today.
What's on my heart really, Colleen, at the minute is, men becoming men, as we spoke about briefly before we jumped on. I run a men's group, and I run it for that reason, because it's necessary. One of the things in the UK, and I'm not sure if this is exclusively in the UK, I doubt it is, that people are happy for men to get together and sit around and talk about the problems, but they're not happy for men to get together and talk about being a man, talk about being a good dad, talk about being a good partner, and talk about being a good leader. That triggers some people. With one person saying, we've spent years and years trying to come away from this, and now you're taking people back towards it. Well, if we've spent so long coming away from that, and the world's in the state as it is at the minute, then that's telling me that it's something we need to go back to.
I so agree. When you were talking about this, I get the visualization of tribal energy. If we think about it, back in the day, the men would go together as a collective to go out and hunt, and they would have each other in that partnership, let's say, for weeks on end while they're out gathering food, hunting together, doing life together. And they were together in unity, creating for the family, being together. And then they would come back to the family, help the wives and do the things, with the actual tribe. And then they'd go back out and do it again. And they would do that together, and they would bring it together. So us now in this lifetime, well, the men don't have to go out and hunt per se to eat because of what the earth has now, but there's that communion, there's that camaraderie. And I feel over the years, and we've seen it be diminished, that men have been torn apart from themselves, unless it's guys night and going out and like playing cards or drinking or going to the strip joint or all the things that like toxicity shows up in our masculinity, where it's acceptable for them to go do that, but it's not acceptable for them to come together like this. Because what if the men are actually empowered to be men? Then what happens in the world, right?
Without a doubt, one of the things that we do is we've started going wild camping. So we get together, we've just got a tarp, a sleeping bag, and we go and find somewhere and we sleep there. And the peace, Colleen, that you're feeling being there, sat around that fire, is you're feeling that peace because that's where you're supposed to be. That's what you're supposed to be. That's what we're not supposed to be sat in an office on a computer for 9 hours a day. We're supposed to be in that environment, and we're coming so far away from what we are as a species that it's no wonder that you go back to that and you feel that sense of brotherhood and you feel that sense of peace. And it's not important, it's essential. I think it's essential that we get back to that. And exactly as you've said, soccer, as you guys call it, but football that we call it. People are happy for lads to get together at the football or stag do's and things like that, where they're drinking and sniffing coke, but they're not happy for men to just get around together and sit around a fire, stone cold sober, talking, because I think people are worried about what conversations will come up in that time.
Oh man. And they're probably also worried too about truth. Like most of us are hiding in shame and in judgment and our stuff, and we don't want people to know. And if these men have outlets, then they're actually healing. And I think that scares not just other men, but I think it actually scares women. Like, what if my man actually heals? And if the woman isn't driven towards wanting a different life or growing together in movement, and not to say that they're not, but there is some women out there that aren't. So they're actually scared too of their husbands, changing and shifting and moving that through. And it like, if people are insecure or they're not doing the work, they're also fearing that. Like, it's a cycle, I feel like. And this movement alone is breaking the cycle of conditioning we've been put into for years and years, probably the last 50, 80 years, I would say. When they started bringing technology into play, and then they started moving job positions, and they started pulling the men from the land and their farms and putting them in other things that they needed them for, where it started to shift. And maybe it's been 100 years, but it started then for sure. I so see it.
Yeah, it's a long time, isn't it? And as Sean said, we connected through the Lions Not Sheep coaching group, but as Sean says, and Andy Fasalo are the two main people that I follow. Yeah. This is being drip fed to us over years and years and years, so that we've become that conditioned to believe that this is how things are. I know some men that they don't mix with any other men. They just spend time with the partner in the house, right. And that's not healthy for either of them. No. It's not healthy for children to see that. It's not healthy for the woman. It's not healthy for the man. Men need that masculine energy around them. They need that that innocent energy of the children. They need the feminine, but they need masculine energy around. You need to be pushed as a man. And as you so rightly said, in the hunting days when they were spending all that time together, to then come away from that where you're spending no time together.
Yeah.
Then look at where we are. Look at where we are now.
Yeah.
And that to me is a reflection of how far away we've come from that.
Yeah. And so you just said, thank you for that, because this is a thing. And it's even more dominant here in Costa Rica, is that most people move here away from their lives in other countries, and they get established and they move with their families, and some of them don't know anyone, and they're not taking time to get out, because we do live a secluded life, to say, like, we could stay in our land and in our homes and maybe go somewhere here and there and tap out. But it takes like some grit, let's say, to get out and meet people and to go to things and to explore and be. But I'm watching some of the community that I'm a part of, and some of the people in that community, they're staying so inside of their world and they're not going out to explore, that we're watching this energy move through of, like, just like you said, isolation and just being with the family. And yeah, your wives are important, and the family like unit is important, but that energy within the masculine drive is so important too, because we need men to be men, right? That's the whole thing. Like, there's two genders for a reason. And whatever, we can go on about that whole thing. There's only two, you know, like, we'll keep that one for another podcast interview, because that one will light me up a bit. But it's like there is, and each of them has a certain role, we'll say, in an energetic capacity and a strength capacity and a creative flow capacity. And we all have that within ourselves as well. Like, I'm sure when your men get together, it's not just about, look at me and I'm strong. You guys are going into vulnerability and sharing and connecting. And that's more of a feminine energy, but that's also needed to help men come through to have an understanding. Is that true?
Yeah, that's spot on. I put one event on. It's called Cigars and Stories,
Mm.
and we sat round a fire, Colleen, and we share a cigar and we tell stories, and conversations flow. And just from that first one of the guys just going around and introducing themselves, the first guy who introduced himself was quite vulnerable with how he introduced himself, and then, like a domino effect, people were opening up about stuff that they probably never told anybody before.
Yeah.
And what an amazing energy that they felt that they could do that in front of some people who they know, but predominantly a group of strangers. And I think, men have got men around them who they can go to the football with, who they can go on a stag do with. But that connection and somebody that will encourage your goals, encourage you about being a better father, and that you can just open up to, some men haven't got that. And that's not to this over emotional men where it's to blurt everything out. I don't mean in that sense, but just to speak, and just to speak about being a man without fear of judgment, I suppose, in any way, shape, or
Yeah.
form.
And I feel like, men are looked at on this pedestal that they're the strong warriors and they're the providers and they protect the home, at least in a lot of, let's say, dynamics, if we look at it that way. But for a man to come together to be able to be vulnerable and speak, from the heart and actually connect deeper within it, some people, and a lot, and especially if the man, like, really, takes respect from his family unit and all that kind of stuff, and let's say his father never did that, so he gets chastised that way for stepping into that space of things, they're looked at with a different eye when they step in to actually do that. So having a community that allows them to do that, and then hopefully they can come home and do the same thing and start to cultivate that energy because they feel confident enough, or they feel like they just can now because they have this community that's holding and supporting them, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And it's something you said there, with some men not having that. I've worked a lot with people in the criminal justice system,
Mm,
and the toxic masculinity that they speak about, and these behaviours that they speak about men, being abusive towards women, being controlling, being
right.
coercive. From what I've seen from working with these people, predominantly that is the opposite. It's a lack of masculinity. These
Mm-hmm.
guys have not had that masculine role model. They've either had non-Colleen or they've had a bad one, and this
Yeah.
has led them to to do these things that they talk about as being toxic masculinity. It's completely the opposite. They haven't had it. It's no masculinity. A man that does things like that is a cowardly. But
Yeah.
when he hasn't seen that, he's not grown up with that. Then what does he go off? Does he go off? These crazy things, these crazy portrayals of masculinity that are putting in some of the films, which are ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
It's a role model's got to come from somewhere, and that's not necessarily dad. It might be granddad, it might be uncle, it might be a close friend, but it's got to come from somewhere. You've got to get that positive male role model from somewhere. as with the positive female role model as well. You need both.
You need both.
Like I say, we won't go down the rabbit hole of the sexes, but that'll be
I won't go down that either. Like I'm not talking about
no.
sexual preferences. I'm talking about gender. That's what I'm talking about. Okay.
100%.
Love is love. Like you
But
do your thing, man. Both. If you're over 18, you're making decisions in your life. That's a whole different story. Like that. Go have a great time.
Completely agree.
Yeah. Go have a great time. What I got the visual of when you were speaking about that is like the bullies at school, in the school system. And they start at a young age, not understanding, being actually not having courage and all this stuff. And they are then stepped into this bully role where they're treating other people like crap, right? And it's like, and they're bullying all these other kids. And I kept seeing the visualization when you were talking about that, like an actual father whose kid's being bullied, going to school to actually school that bully, because somebody needs to school the bully, right? And nobody's doing it. The teachers aren't doing it. Like if there's any male teachers listening to this, I'm going to highly encourage that you actually take charge in this aspect of things, because this kid obviously does not have a role model, and he's going to grow up to be these toxic masculine energies that are going to be beating women, or they're going to be, bullying even at jobs and in work situations. And we have the availability to shift something in the world right now at the age of 5, at the age of 10, in the space of, because they don't have that in their world in life. And imagine, if an actual male, a strong masculine energy who gets and understands, goes to school to protect his kid and actually could shift the life of that bully. That's a huge thing.
Yeah, 100%. And I think this is the important thing of getting, one of the things that I spoke with a friend about the other day is Cubs and Scouts and things like that. And we're great. You go camping, you let out all that boisterous energy. And then they started mixing the groups. So it was girls and boys. Yeah. Well, at that age, when they're in those groups, some boys are scared of girls. Yeah. Some boys are scared of being the self around girls. Some really want to impress the girls and, are peacocking and stuff, as my friend said. And I think those groups were far better when it was just a group of boys that could be boys around each other. Yeah. What in my eyes, what they should have done is brought the guides and the scouts together more, but kept the groups separately, brought them together for joint events so that they got used to mixing around people of the opposite sex. But not join the groups, because I think that would stop a lot of boys being the boys that they needed to be. Yeah. And this goes way back with everything. They're changing so many things, and a lot of these things now we are living through the consequences of changing those things, like further down the line. Yeah. These groups and things like that have gone. I myself wasn't, but I know getting involved in martial arts, that can be very disciplined for young lads and stuff. My daughter, actually, she's the second Dan black belt. We got her involved in kickboxing at a young age, and she absolutely loves it and she thrives from it. So there was always groups where boys and girls could go, but having those exclusive boys and exclusive girls group, I think were important. They were really important.
Yeah, I agree. I was a girl guide, but I was like one of those girl guides that was like super competitive. I was just in it to get all the badges and get them in the fastest amount of time before anyone else got all the badges. Like I did, like that's just how I did life. Like I was like, okay, what can I do this week? And I'd read the book and I'd find the easiest ones. I'd get all the easy ones done, and then I would go and get the hard ones done. I know. I was like, yeah. I was that kid. Do I remember anything? No. Like if you asked me to tie a certain knot right now, I'd be like, I have no idea how to do that. Like, yeah.
It's funny because I don't remember that, those knots and stuff. I don't remember, but I remember that feeling of sitting around the fire and stuff, and that's what's drawn me to doing what I'm doing now. So that camaraderie and that brotherhood, I do remember that did stick. The practical stuff, I always remember that you put the fire in a triangle, and and that saved me since then. But no, most of those things I forgot. But the feeling of that brotherhood. I remember well, and I think that's what's carried on into adulthood. And one of the things, my friend who's a counsellor, and he says, if you were struggling to find your purpose, to uncover your purpose, look at what you love to do as a child. Look at those things like the inner child enjoyed, and work back towards them, and doing something around them, and you get a good feeling from that. And I'm testament to that, I think.
I love this. Well, I also believe and really hold a space for that we leave clues throughout our past as to what we're actually here to do. And we remember our mission, because like I'm all spiritual and stuff like that, right? So I believe that we drop into our body with a purpose on here in life, and this is what we do. And I believe we remember as kids. So we're more inclined to moving through that, but then we get conditioned and our parents tell us we can't, and all the things that happen that then diminish that light in us. And then we forget. And then as adults, we start to remember again, and we got those pieces and they start to play out. And then we start to actually, hopefully, take action in the alignment of what's coming through us to actually serve the world in the light that we're meant to actually serve the world within. So that in my world makes so much sense. And for a lot of the people listening will make so much sense. And it'd be like, of course, that's what he's doing, because that just makes sense, like inside of the space of. But I want to talk about leadership now, because all of this plays a role. Men stepping into leadership positions, women also holding their own leadership positions in the dynamic of their flow and their movement as well. But you've written a couple books in connection with some of this and some of these dynamics. So just start to talk and lead us through this conversation about leadership and some of the key things you've been finding lately, and wherever else you kind of want to share. And I'd love to just chat about this.
Yeah. We've got weak, I wouldn't even call them leaders. We've got weak leaders in positions of power in politics and things like that, more so than we've ever had. And predominantly these people do not lead by example. So you've got health officials that aren't healthy. You've got people all through the COVID nonsense directing people what to do, but not doing those things themselves. And an important story for me very early on in, I wouldn't say my career, I was working in kitchens at the time, was I worked in the kitchen, and I worked in a crazy busy bar, and it was bank holiday Monday, and at 2 o'clock you couldn't get any food out of the kitchen. It was that busy. So I offered to help to glass collect. Like, there was two of us who were helping to collect glasses on that day. And there was a guy who was on. He was the assistant manager. He wasn't the manager. The manager was a really good guy. He was a rugby bloke, quite a strong masculine presence. And I was only young. And this guy came up to me, and he said, you need to go downstairs and clean all that up. And I said, clean what up? And he said, you go downstairs and you'll find out. And I went downstairs in the toilets, and all up the urinal and all up the walls, somebody had chucked up. It'd been sick everywhere, and it was all over the place. And I went back up to him and I said, I'm not cleaning that up. And he said, yes, you are. I said, no, I'm not. I said, I'm doing you a favour by coming out of your glass collecting, and I'm not cleaning that up. If he'd have come up to me clean and said, listen, man, can you come downstairs and have a look here down? Somebody's made a right mess. Can you give me a hand to clean this up? I would have said, you go upstairs, I'll clean it up. It was just that he wasn't willing to lead by example. He was asking me to do something that he got no intention of ever wanting to do. And I ended up in a management role in a rehabilitation unit, and I never asked my staff to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. They saw me doing it, and they would all happily do whatever I asked them to do because they saw me doing it. And we're not seeing that leadership by example. And I think that's so important. I've done, I'm on day 53 of the 75 odd program at the minute, Andy Fasala's program. And I've done it before. There's 7 of us now doing this program at this time. There's me, my partner, there's my brother, and there's a group of friends. And they've all come on board because they've seen me doing it and sharing my journey on social media. Yeah. I'm out for a walk, 5 a.m. I've got the weighted vest on, and they're seeing that. So people follow that example when they see that you're willing to do it. But if you're not willing to do it, you're not going to get anybody following that example at all. And I try and implement that as much as I can with my daughter. Of course, I'm a guy, I've got flaws. I'm by no means perfect, but she saw me, getting after it with 75 odds. She saw me doing these workouts, and then she just came up to me one day and said, "Dad, can I come out on the next walk with you?" I didn't ask her. And since then, she joins me when she's at my house and she's not at her mum's. She joins me out on the walks and stuff because she's seen me doing it. And one of the chapters in my book, 23 Rules of Life, was your children will watch what you do more than they listen to what you say. You can tell them until you blow it. Oh, don't do this, don't do that. But they've got to be seeing you doing it and setting that example. And I think that's essential.
Yeah. And this is really a really powerful message as well. Like I was that leader, just like you were, that would step in and do the work. Like I would be, we were getting slammed. I come from the restaurant industry as well. So we were getting slammed. I would jump behind the bar and be like, "Where do you need me?" And they'd be like, "Hey, can you help this person make drinks?" Or I'll help take the bar or whatever. And I'll step into the space of, or I'd go up to the hostess stand and I'd be like, "Okay, what do we got going on up here? How can I help you maneuver this forward?" And I'd be bussing tables and I'd be out there, doing whatever needed to be done as a manager. And even as a server, I was helping other people, and it'd be like, "These drinks have been here for way too long. I'm going to run these drinks." Right. And it was like that was what I just did all the time. I did it everywhere in everything I did. And that's how I got into management. That's how I got so many jobs throughout the years, because I always get bored after, right? Because I do have a rebellion energy. I'd be like, "I'm not challenged anymore. I'm going to go to somewhere else and find a new project." And that's how my consulting company started to play out, and how I got into consulting, because of the fact that I was so good at that. And it was like, well, I want to make more money doing this. I'm going to try this entrepreneurship thing that I have no idea what to do on. And for years floundered in the middle of that as well, but that's a whole other endeavor. But that's what it really is. And I love the comment that you made about our governmental systems. Like, Canada is fucking falling apart. It's falling apart.
Yeah.
And like our finance minister in a video that I saw yesterday won't even answer the question as to how much interest we're paying on the debt that we have now. She's skirting around the conversation, will not even tell Canadians what's actually happening inside of this country. And it's like, it's just crazy to watch and see. And we are lacking leadership, but I feel it's on purpose. Like the elitist mechanism, like what Sean talked about yesterday on our call too. Like I see all the veils like everywhere, right? They're all pop for me. But the elitist mechanism is to fuck shit up in all these countries so that when they bring in this, whatever 2030 freaking thing that they want to do and be like, "You own nothing and you're happy and we own you." Like people will be like, "You need to own me because my fucking life is fucked because the government's fucked everything up already." Right. So it's that whole mechanism. And man, I could go off on a wire there. I don't know if you want to comment to that before I move you into your actual book, because
I think, I completely agree. I think it's intentional. But what I don't think they've anticipated is the surge of energy that's gone through people like us who have seen that. And it's drove me more. If you say I'm going to be eating fucking bugs and and I'm going to have no money, and then I'm going to be rich and I'm going to be eating big steaks, I'm going to the opposite of what you tell me I'm going to do. I'm going to be doing. And I've with these groups of getting these men together, I've got a small group of us, 6 of us, who jump online on Zoom every week, and it's for that. It's to get that strong group of people around you, and we're all on the same page. I was quite lucky through all the COVID stuff that a lot of my friends and family were on a very similar page to me. I know people got a lot of resistance, family members not speaking to them, but it's shone a light on these people, and it is intentional, but it's just firing the people who will genuinely sort of step into those leadership roles. I think it's lit a fire up under their ass. So it's had the opposite impact. There will be the people that will just go along with that, and they'll be living on the little 15-minute cities. But I think there'll be a lot of resistance.
Yeah, no, and I'm the same page as you. I agree. I think that they didn't realize what happens to humans when they have quietness in their life, because we've been in so much hustle and so much distortion, and we've been running around for years and years. And then all of a sudden we have to stay in our houses and get quiet pretty much it actually changed the game, because we now are more connected to who we are. We're now in movements of what is actually important. And it, like, they didn't see this coming, that we actually awakened. I was awake before this, but like people awakened and they started to see the dynamics of this. And then people like you started writing books about like the important things that we need to actually consider and moving through life and moving through the world. So tell us a little bit about the books, because I think that that's a really important piece too.
Yeah, so I love that we had that quiet time. A lot of my clients, the phone was going, they cancelled. I've done some work for the probation service here, which is it's a service for prisoners and stuff. So luckily I had that little bit of a cushion financially when all my clients dried up. But I always wanted to write a book, and I didn't want some fake pandemic to do it, but it cleared that time to sit down in quiet time. And I wrote every day, Colleen. I wrote every single day until that book was finished. And one of my favorite quotes is the Rumi quote, that as you step out on the way appears. Being talking about this book for so long, not writing, waiting for the burst of inspiration, it didn't come. And then once you start writing that, or you start doing anything, that inspiration just starts hitting you tenfold. So I started writing the first book, the inspiration came for the next book. I very quickly wrote the next book, 23 Rules of Life That Most People Don't Want to Hear, which was a reflection of what was going on in the world with all the crazy COVID stuff. And then as I wrote that, the third book, which is nearly finished now, is called Man. It's not who you are, it's who you become. So each one's just led into the next one in a very sort of smooth energy way. I don't really know how to explain that. I just wrote one, and then it was like, bing, this is the next one you need to write. It's like, bing, this is the next one you need to write. And I'm sure before this one's finished, the inspiration will come for the fourth one. But 23 Rules of Life That Most People Don't Want to Hear. A lot of the stuff that was going on through COVID and stuff like that, really stuff that people didn't want to hear, and it was triggering people. And I love seeing human behavior. And although that was a bad time for people, it was interesting to see that when the pressure was on, who crumbled, who started lashing out, and who just remained who they were and led in those times. And I lost a lot of people, but I also gained a lot of people. And I think the beauty of that was, I saw a quote that it says, never in history simultaneously as every single person's been character being on show. And it was. And I learned who I don't want to be around and who I do want to be around. So I think a lot of beautiful stuff came out of that time, really.
Oh man. And it's like the masks came off. Technically they should have come off, but the mask came off where we actually got to see the realness in people. Like my mom it was in the March or April of 2020. My mom was calling me and she's starting to send me these videos. And I said to my mom, I was like, Mom, I just need you to really understand, whatever the government says to do, I am not doing. Okay. Like, you don't have to convince me. I don't need to see. And then, once all the vaccine stuff started coming out, I was like, Mom, I don't need any of these videos. Okay. Like, I am already set in the space. I will die on the mountain alone fighting for freedom before I will do anything that the government tells me. Okay. Like, I just want to make sure we're clear about this. And I was like, you go you go help my brother, because he needs way more help than me. Okay. Like, and if the electricity goes out or they shut don't worry about me. I got it covered. Like, I will figure out life. I'm resourceful. I got some stuff going on. Like, just don't even worry. Right. And so I'm that person that would step into the space of and like hold that. And people started to feel it and then rely on me. And it was really funny. So I've never told this story actually on my podcast, which is kind of fun. And I told this to someone the other day, and it was like, I was the person that got kicked out of the freedom community, that we would have these little community things, because I was too freedom. Okay. Meaning I walked in, and this is my like asset. I started setting up systems. I got everybody in communities. I got people working together. I got them holding events to teach others. Like, I got the whole thing put together. But the people who created the group got irked because I did so much work in such a short period of time that they were scared of me, that they like removed me from the group and told me I could never come back to the freedom meetings. I was like, I got kicked out of the freedom groups for being too free. And I'm like, this would happen to me. I just think it's hilarious.
Crazy.
Like, Yeah, but plus I was off
Amazing.
path of doing that stuff. I needed to be like really shining my light. So the universe gave me that beautiful gift of being released because it took
Yeah.
so much time. Nobody made money on it. It was more so like solidifying community to be able to move through. But
Yeah,
I needed to get
definitely.
into my back into my real space. But I was just like, I just started laughing. Like, who gets kicked out of freedom community? Me, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was quite a bit of craziness in the freedom community and stuff as well.
Oh, for sure.
I think it also shone a light on, some underlying mental health issues and stuff in that area as well. It was a
Yes,
very, very interesting time, wasn't it?
it
But
was.
a time I wouldn't want to change at all. Although I disagreed with every single thing that was going on. I think as humanity, we needed that. We needed that.
Yeah.
We had taken our eye off the ball. We were caught into hustling and chasing after things, and we needed that quiet time.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Joe Dispenza said, he said every
Mm,
single person has asked for this, and now you've got it. You don't want it.
of
You've
course.
asked to not go in the office. You've asked for more time with the children, more time to connect with the family. He says, and now you've got it. You don't want it.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy though? That's what happens. It's like we're at, and then
Yeah,
it's like it doesn't show up in the way you think it needs to show up in whatever way that is, but it's
exactly.
showing up in a way, then now you get to take advantage of it, and it's like I went through my own dark night of the soul through the beginning parts, because I was like, all my clients were closed down. I was doing very pragmatic business coaching at the time. And this was the actual movement that I chose, even though I didn't really have a choice, but I did, like I chose to actually step into my mission on earth and start to lead in the spirituality side that I hidden from the world for so long. Like if you didn't know me personally and we had conversations and stuff, you wouldn't know that I did all these things. So I was forced, quote unquote, and I'm never forced. We always have choices, but I obviously know too that I don't really have a choice because this is happening no matter what I say. And I can either resist it and it be a struggle, or I can step in and let it flow. And that's when I actually started moving into the spiritual work and the stuff I'm doing and all that kind of dynamic. So it's been an interesting journey, the whole thing, the whole time to watch it all maneuver. So yeah, just crazy.
And still is, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh,
It still is that craziness is just carried on, hasn't it? And potentially it's always been there. But we've been a little bit blinkered to it, and we've been, you know, chasing the hustle and spending time with family and doing stuff that we need to do, and there's nothing wrong with. But we took our eye off the ball.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
We did, and now an amazing thing is that all this stuff is massively under the spotlight. So this 2030 agenda, it's out in the open now. It's not in the shadows anymore. Everybody can
No.
see it for
Yeah.
exactly what it is. Not everybody, no, but a lot of people can.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's 23 rules of life really was what a lot of people said. I get, oh, you're always really positive, and then I released 23 Rules of Life, and people were saying that 23 Rules of Life was more of a negative book, and it was more of a negative book compared to Dreams to Goals, because Dreams to Goals was all about potential and tapping into that. But 23 Rules of Life was about all these things outside of self that are trying to sap that potential away from us.
Mm.
So what I was saying to people is, it's not negative. It's shining a light on these things so that you then maneuver in a way, being aware of these things, being aware of what the government are doing, being aware of the mainstream media, just having the awareness of all of these things around you, and then you will maneuver accordingly.
Right. And that's the thing. And I love that you brought that up, is awareness. And I think that that's one of the key things, like paying attention and awareness. And I've spoken to this numerous times on the podcast. This is actually in season 2 now, which is about to launch. Like we're recording in advance, but it's about to launch on October the 27th and roll into season 2. And in season 1, I hit it like all the time, was paying attention and being in awareness, and paying attention and being in awareness. And everything that we desire to have, be, do, everything is inside of us. Everything. We just need to remember that we have all the assets and tools here. And just like you said about writing your books, when you started to write, it came through you, and then another one was there, and then another one. And it's not like it's hard. Yeah, it takes commitment and dedication, and you've got to get disciplined to write the book, but it comes through you with ease and grace because it is you, right? This is your mission. This is your light moving through the world. And I think that more people if they start to understand this and really start to flow with this and start to lead in their light, looking within for their light and stepping out through their light into the world, that's where we actually make change. And sometimes it requires us to actually see what the hell is happening in the world, to actually then come back into self and be like, okay, where am I disconnected in my world?
Yeah, I love what you said there about remembering. It's remembering who we are. And a lot of people talk about like discovering your purpose, and I think it's uncovering it. I don't look at it as discovering it. It's there. It's just been, a load of shit's been shoveled on it with limiting beliefs, other people's opinions. All these things have been chucked on top of it. That you've kind of got to dig it back out again. It's not that you've got to go looking for. You don't need to go and find yourself. It's there. It's there, and it's just tapping into that and uncovering it. Which I'm not downplaying that can be a very difficult thing for some people.
Of course.
But it's there. It's there inside yourself. It's looking within rather than outside, and that's why 23 Rules of Life was these things outside yourself. You look within. You don't need to listen to any of this noise. Like, you need to come away from all this noise and go within it. It's all there in the spiritual sense.
Yeah, I love this.
But we're just, we're blasted with these things. We're just the propaganda and everything. It's like it's relentless. It's like boom, boom, boom. But once you're aware of that, you will operate accordingly. I love what Sean said on the call last night. For me, it was probably yesterday afternoon for you, but last night, and it was purge those people that you follow. And funnily enough, I'd done a little bit of that a week before, because I'm following these people and they're talking about what's going on in Israel and Palestine, which I'm not downplaying. For the people over there is horrific, but what can you do about it? You're buying into all this noise. Go and do some shit in your own fucking community. Stop focusing on stuff that you've got no control over whatsoever. Work in your own community. Help those people that you can, and focus on what you can control rather than the things that you can't. And I went on last night and I unfollowed a lot of people that I like, and people that I agree with their opinions. But I thought, I listened to exactly what he said. I thought, I don't need this shit in my life. I'm not where I want to be. I'm working towards where I want to be, and these people have got to go. And I probably unfollowed like 200 accounts on Instagram that, and some of those people that I really like. I agree with the views, but I thought, I don't need you in my space, and just got rid of those people.
Well, and we're also too in a really tight focus. Those of us that have made a choice and a decision to step in, to get our houses in order, to make impact in the world, to make a movement, to really create, it's all noise that's there. And not to say that it's not warranted, and I'm not diminishing anything that's happening and the people that have been killed and any of that whatsoever at all, but it's noise. And it's like one of those things that's a distraction. And it's like, I want to stay hyper focused in serving my people and creating and amplifying and moving this forward and actually being in the business that I desire to be. And I can't do that with holding all these pieces around. And it was a couple months ago that I think I was like following like 1,500 people at one point in time. And then at least 800 of them I've already let go. And I'm just finding ones that actually fuel my soul, that whenever I pull up their story, I don't click through their story. If I click through your story, then I shouldn't be following you, because there's something that's not there for my connection. And I want it to be pure connection source. I want to feel like I jump on and I want to listen to you. If I'm taking 10 minutes out of my day to spend on Instagram, to go scroll through Instagram, which I don't do often, but I want to also participate in life with the people that I follow and see their content, because I want people to see mine. So I want to participate in that exchange, but it's like, it's got to come from a purity place now. I'm not just doing it to do it. Like, I'm not just going into a group that says, follow all these people to follow all these people. No, it's not my jam.
I think that's an amazing way of looking at it as well, Colleen. If you're scrolling through somebody's story and skipping through, unfollow, isn't it? There's no energy. You're not interested in that energy that they're putting out. And I love people talking about issues that we face, with the masculinity being one of them. But unless you're offering fucking solutions as well, then stop talking about the problems. Stop talking about all the shit that's going on. Have a think about how you're going to solve this. What are you going to do about it? And if there's nothing you can do about it, then you need to look at something else to focus on.
Yeah.
But yeah, those I unfollowed a lot of people and feel a lot better for it. And as Sean said, and I've said this before on my own social media, if what I say is triggering you, and you unfollow me,
Yeah.
take me out of your space if you don't like that. I'm happy with that. You just don't need to announce that you're leaving. Like some
No.
people do.
Yeah, I don't need to know you're leaving. It's all
Put a
good.
post up they don't like. I'm
Yeah.
going. I'm unfollowing you. Just go. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Yeah. Why
You
be
don't
so
need to
dramatic?
announce that you're going.
Yeah, I know. So true. I started really leaning in, and my new branding's coming out. Like, I just saw the photos. I did a photo shoot 2 days ago, and it's completely changing the game for me. I've never done photos here in Costa Rica. I haven't been able to find a photographer that I loved. And she runs the yoga studio that we go to. Well, it's not a studio, it's a shala.
Cool.
We literally do yoga in the jungle, like right beside a river outside. Like, it's actually super cool. Like I live a really cool life. Like, I honor it all the time. And I saw a photo she had taken of one of the yoga instructors, and I was like, holy fuck, these are amazing. And I was like, I need to work with you like monthly. I need you in my life every month because I need to bring this energy out into my brand because right now it doesn't have it. And she sent me the teaser the day, like, we did this shoot 2 days ago, and I went, holy fuck. Like, I'm like, who is this person? And even like, I asked myself, I'm like, who are you channeling? Because I channel a lot of energies, and I just kept hearing, you're channeling you. And I went, like, in this disbelief of
Wow.
what this actually is and what this means for me. But it's like that power within ourselves to be able to move it forward. I'm going to probably trigger some people, and I'm in a white dress coming out of a waterfall. So I have my nipples are exposed in some of these photos, and I'm fucking going to be nippling it out apparently because I can't not post them. They're like phenomenal energy.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I'm just going to own that I'm a woman and I have nipples, and that's a thing. And it's not sexual. It's in a energy of power. It's not like I'm calling in men to come to my IG to be able to see the photo of me in the middle of a waterfall, fucking owning my shit. It's me literally stepping into this femininity, like the masculine side you pull from men, and holding it in all of its capacity and in its power. And it's going to be really fun to see what happens. I'm either going to get a lot more followers because of the brand, or I'm going to lose some that can't hold it. And I'm okay with whatever shows up because I understand my mission on earth, So it's so interesting. So
yeah,
fun.
absolutely love that. It'll draw the right people in, won't it? And it'll trigger or scare off the other people that aren't in touch with that energy and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it, isn't it? And that was that was what happened through COVID. Without purposely doing it, without purging, people dropped off, people went away. Those energies that you didn't need around you disappeared, and then you question, well, was that connection even deep anyway? Obviously not.
Yeah,
Obviously not.
Yeah. And I watched a lot of people fall out of my world, and I wasn't even that vocal, like, publicly. I was vocal in the back end. My job as the light warrior that I am is to light lights, right? And so I'm individual lights. And did I share some stuff on social here and there? Yes, but people just naturally fell off. And when I would see people and they're commenting and stuff, I'd be like, no, we're no longer aligned. And I'm okay holding space for all the people. I didn't make any judgments onto where people were. But if you start stepping into my life and starting to make judgments on me and starting to tell me how I need to do my life, that's where we're done. Like, it's like, no, I'm good. Thank you. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. I'm all for you do more of what invigorates your energy and makes you feel good. You do more of that. Just don't put your shit on me, because I'll do more of what makes me feel good and what's good for my family and the people around me. And that was the main thing with all that craziness. You do you, I'll do me. I don't care what you're doing. It doesn't bother me, but don't be putting your shit on me. I'm on the carnivore diet at the minute, and I've felt a bit of thingy from. I've got some great friends who are vegan, who are just vegan. They do that, and that's for them. But some of the backlash of, shouldn't be doing that. It's like, listen, you fucking do you, and I'll do me.
Yeah.
You will change the world by changing yourself. You don't need to be shouting, because it's not going to work.
No.
just do you.
Yeah.
And what feels good. And there was a great conversation between Joe Rogan and Matt Walsh, and
Mm.
they've got completely different views on some things, and very similar views on other things. Colleen, one of the things he spoke about was gay marriage, and Joe Rogan was like, "I've got some amazing friends who get married," and Matt Walsh didn't agree with gay marriage, and he had his reasons for that. But they had this amazing conversation, and at the end of it, it was just like, how good was that? To
Yeah.
sit down with somebody who you don't agree with and just talk, and
Yeah.
the conclusion at the end was, you do you, I'll do me.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And that's the power, though, that we have. It's not about restricting people. It's about understanding different points of view, because we all have them. We're all unique. We have our own vibrations. We came on earth for a reason. We're all different. We all have our own puzzle pieces for the puzzle, and honoring that. But it's also like there's so much judgment in the world, and people have been conditioned to judge, where separation was brought in over these last 3 years, for sure, trying to separate the people, trying to put them into boxes and fight against each other in all ways, in all these different ways. And it's just, we're watching it still escalate. And it's about bringing it back into the purity of our light and remembering that we're human, right? We're all human in this experience, and we're all going through our stuff, and
One
each of us is different and all that dynamic. But yeah, I so agree with you.
one of the things, I managed a rehabilitation unit for people struggling with addiction, recovery from addiction.
Yeah.
And there was alcoholics, there was prescription drug addicts, there was illegal drug addicts, there was everybody in there. And
Yeah.
one of the things that somebody said one day that really stuck in my mind, she worked in a bank and she was an alcoholic, and I I'm completely different than these people. There's people in there from prison. There's people in there who are millionaires. It was
A
addiction doesn't
mix.
discriminate.
Yeah.
And one of the things that the therapy says is, how about looking at what you've got in common with that person rather than looking at the differences?
Mm-hmm.
And once she found that common ground, her whole experience in there completely changed. She really started working the program. She really started getting better in herself. Her behavior started changing because she was just looking at the differences. She was looking at all, I'm not like him, I haven't been person, blah, 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 rather than looking at the common ground that they'd all got like. And that's where I think that's the sweet spot, when you look at those things that
Yeah.
you've got in common with other people rather than the differences.
It's so true. And like, if we can release our differences and actually come together and with humans and humanity, like my mom said to me, my parents live in Winnipeg, Canada, and they did the Million March. I can't remember what the name was because I wasn't in Canada at the time. I'm in Costa Rica, for children, right? For the schools and parents coming together for parental consent and removing some of the information from the schools and getting back into actual school system instead of this control mechanism and all this confusion they're creating right now. And she said to me, Colleen, there was about 3,000 people there, every religion, every walk of life, parents coming together in unity. So whether we believe the same in religion or we believe the same in values, we believe today the same thing about our kids. And we're here to stand up for this, that we don't want our kids reading sexual exploitation books at the age of 5 in schools. And we don't want people asking them what gender they are, or all these dynamics of things like inside the school system, because it's up to us as parents to be able to work through some of these things with our children and feel that out, right? So they came together in unity that way. My mom was like, oh my God, every walk of life, everyone, Muslims and Hindus and like all these types of people were at this event together in unity for a mission on earth. And they weren't combative against all the other things that maybe they, don't come together on. They were like, this is why we're here. We're here for this.
Right.
And there's so much power in that. If we can actually drop our
Yeah, I've
guard.
just got goosebumps when
Yeah.
you're talking about that. That's amazing.
There's so much power. And I believe that human race is actually remembering what it's like to be a human now through these types of experiences. So it's so cool. Well, I know that you and I could chat for probably hours about random
Yeah.
things and non-random things. But what's next for you? Like, I want to find out, like, I also want to know too, I'll ask you the what's next question again, but I want to know, if there's a man listening to this who is like, I want a seat at the table, I want to be a part of this movement. You said you did have an online space. Obviously, I get and understand the men camaraderie coming together live physically, but you do have some stuff online. Is that true?
Well, I'm online, quite an online presence, but looking at building that eventually into like a membership
Yeah.
platform. That's the way it'll head, Colleen, eventually. But there's a seat at the table group. If guys want to search for that group, they can join it. It's on Facebook.
Perfect.
Free to join, and you can just share. There's a couple of different hashtags that they can share things about being a man in that group, and they can get support, encouragement. So yeah, I'd love to anyone to join that group, because the idea is to to go worldwide with this, to take seat at the table as a worldwide thing. My partner's from Kansas, so it makes sense to put an event on there at some point in the future when
Yeah.
when we go over, and just keep growing it, just keep getting more men together, and like we spoke about getting the backlash and stuff like that. I love that. I love getting the backlash. Anyway, I'm not thingy to that. It's those people that when they've jumped on the post and stuff. I said, listen, this is going to get bigger, better, stronger, and by commenting and arguing on the post, it's just boosting the post through the roof anyway. So
It's
just
perfect.
giving
Come
them
on
more
on.
exposure. So it's win-win.
I love that. So, and all the
um,
women listening to this too, because there is a lot of women that listen to this podcast. Your husbands, your brothers, your fathers, like if you are really feeling this and want to connect them with Darren and the movement of, the seat at the table, like I'm going to highly encourage you guys to do that too. And it could be a possibility as well that if there's a representative in Canada, Darren, that's like, I really want to lead this, that you could help him support and actually grow a movement in Canada, in the United States. So if anyone's feeling this, yeah, reach out, connect, get on a call, talk about it. You have questions about that, like just reach out, because this is an important movement in the world. And all of the ones that are coming into my space are important movements, and it's just like, I love to see what's happening and how we happened upon, being here together today. And obviously it's not a coincidence, because I don't believe in any of that, where Spirit was like, you need to put this post in the Lions Den group to find some, because there is some light warriors that are there that are ready to embody. And I was like, okay, and that's how we got here. And I'm like, oh my God, I love that we had this conversation. I'm so excited.
Amazing.
So good.
Been
So yeah,
amazing.
what's next for you? Where are you at? Like, what's the vision of the life you're creating now? Just because I want to know.
Well, I worked with I ran a single dads group, and that's kind of how the work started with men, dads that had ended up with the children, and usually, Colleen, that's from substance misuse, it's from death, it's usually something bad's happened for the dad to end up with sole custody. We've always had shared custody. We split up when Ellie was 5, and we've had shared custody. We've got an amazing co-parenting relationship, even though we're not together. So that's where the kind of the work with men started from, and it grew from there. I thought, this is where I should be. This is the space I need to be in. So I'm going to grow the seat at the table group. The next book is called Man, so it'll be specifically aimed at men. And I want to turn this into a clothing brand and everything eventually. So there's a big vision for it. It's just it's sometimes taking those small steps. It's walking before you can run.
Yeah. Well, I see the vision of what you're creating. I also see once you get your community up, and like, let's say you get to like 100 members, you ask Sean to come in and speak to the community, because I think that's going to be a really powerful thing, because he represents the stuff that you're also, leaning into in all the capacity and ways. And he supports his den members that way too. And if you create a stage for him, he'll show up on the stage, right? So this is a
Which would be
powerful,
phenomenal.
powerful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously in the show notes, we're going to have all the links connecting people to you, and I'm encouraging them to reach out, and step into the space, have conversations. Even if you're a woman and you're like, how do I help my man do this? Like, I'm sure
Definitely.
you're like, yeah, and you've got resources and tools that way too.
Of course.
But let's end it off with like one thing you just want to maybe say to people. Like, we know there's an eclectic mix of people on here, but what's coming out? We opened up with what's on your heart. We're going to close with what's on your heart and kind of finish off that way. So yeah, what do you got to say?
I think the big one with anything is that quote that I said earlier: "As you step out on the way appears." I love that, and I embody that. And if you've got something that's sort of eating away at you, I like when Les Brown said, that dream that you've got will never ever go away until you bring it to life. It's like a little voice that's constantly whispering to you, step out on the way, step out, shine your light. We did an event called Stoke on Love. We're in Stoke-on-Trent in England, and it was probably the most vulnerable I spoke about, rather than in my books. And as a kid, I was scared of everything. And I realised it was all coming externally. It was all stuff from the media. I'd be on a plane and I'd be looking if somebody had got a backpack that looked like they got a bomb. And a kid shouldn't be looking at things like that. But once I stepped out on the way and all these things just sort of melted away. So I'd recommend everyone to embody that quote. I think, Colleen, that's what I'll leave them with.
Yeah. And I love that. And I appreciate the time today, Darren. And I always encourage everyone, if you're feeling this, send us messages, tag us, on Instagram. And if you share out the podcast, I say this all the time, this movement only is created because of all of us. It's not just about me and not just about Darren and not just about what we're going to do together when it comes to the promotion. It's all of you listening. Send it to a friend, send it to some male in your life that may need to hear this. Send this out to people, because the more the message gets into the hands of the people that need the message, the more change we get to create, the more movement we get to create, the more light we get to light up in the world. So I'm super grateful that you came on. Thank you for sharing.
It's been amazing. Really enjoyed it.
Your day with me, your evening. What time is it there? 4 o'clock? 5 o'clock?
No, it's 10:03 now. 10:04. 10:04.
Got it. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing all that time. And I just so appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate you too. It was amazing to speak to you, Colleen. Thank you.
You're so welcome. And we'll see you guys all in the next episode. See, what an amazing episode. I loved this conversation. I love that we stepped into the space. I love that I could talk frankly, even though I'm sure that's not an issue for me, about dynamics though with someone else that understood, that was also in the space of sovereignty and also in the space of really moving through this energy in the collective to hold, to be, to maneuver. And I love finding out from men about the movement they're making in the world, because I think it's important. I think a lot of them, like Darren even said in the podcast, a lot of men are 9 to 5 behind a desk at a job, and they're forgetting who the fuck they really are. And in this episode, we got to dive into that. So if you have a man in your life that could benefit from hearing this message today, share this out to them. Tag Darren and I on Instagram, share the podcast out. Let's get this into the hands of more men that are desiring to make movements and desiring to find a community that's going to hold them and make change in their world so that they can fully embody what it is they are here to do as well in the space of time. And I love and appreciate you guys. And thank you for being here to listen in all the ways that you guys show up for the movement of the Light Warriors Unleashed podcast and the movement of this light in the world. And I'm just grateful that I get to do this and that this is part of my life. And this is who I get to embody in this space of having these conversations, and just grateful for it all. And thank you guys again for being here. And we'll see you guys again in the next episode.